So way back in 1966, when this was still Czechoslovakia, some guy in the small town of Čelákovice was digging around his backyard when he came across some bones. This wasn't a crime scene, not exactly. He called the police, who figured the bones were old, so they called an archaeologist. They determined that the guy's backyard was a vampire graveyard. Unfortunately, we can't show the graves themselves as they are a bit cringe, but we can look at the town and some famous vampires from films. Most sensible people would have left the graves alone, but people apparently had nothing better to do. Remember, there was no internet yet, so they dug them up. In total, there were 11 graves with 14 skeletons, all men. The local villagers at the time made a great effort to see that these particular people would stay in the ground. Not only were their hands and legs bound, but their heads were cut off, and rocks were placed on their bodies. Some showed signs of more extreme anti-vampire practices too gruesome to describe on social media. If you believe the UK tabloid The Sun, and who doesn't, one skeleton even had a stake through its heart. They were laid on their sides, which is often done to confuse an undead corpse as it will dig in the wrong direction to reach the surface. While other old graves often had elaborate jewelry or weapons, the only thing of value these people had was iron belt buckles. While burials like this are not unique in Central and Eastern Europe, usually they are found one at a time. The large number altogether is something that still has not been explained. The researchers back in the 1960s said it dated to the 11th century, so about 1,000 years ago. More recent radiocarbon dating by new researchers puts them at the 14th century. These recent spoil sports also offer alternative theories to them being vampires, such as maybe they were a band of foreign criminals. But even for a xenophobic society, these burials seem a bit extreme. It is important to point out that the burials don't prove that vampires existed, just that people believed they did and took precautions to stop them, sort of like taking vitamins to stop an illness. It doesn't mean that you were going to get sick, and the fact that you didn't get sick doesn't prove that vitamins work. But you take them anyway. On the 50th anniversary of the find, a researcher in Brazil used the same software that police use to reconstruct what a crime victim looks like to bring one of the vampires back to life, as if that ever sounded like a good idea. But you can see some of the pictures. The bones are in the archives of a museum someplace and not on public display. The site of the now empty graves is on private property and there is nothing to see there. If you do visit Čelákovice, remember your cross and garlic. And don't stay after dark.
Thank you. Please like and comment.